stopper, but it's his inability to put pressure on the quarterback that really made the Jets unhappy and also forced the Jets to make this trade with the Giants. And the Giants were able to get him, and it cost a pretty penny, but at the same time, they got the run stopper that they needed, but they're still looking for someone who can put pressure on and also get sacks against the quarterback, and that's something that Leonard Williams lacked this past season. In fact, he was sorely lacking in sacks the last 3 seasons.
So what made the Giants put the veteran tag on him if he's mediocre? Unless there's somebody out there that's worse.
My guess is that in the event that someone signs him to a below average offer, the Giants might be able to bring him back.
Wow. And have you heard anything about the Giants, where they're picking and who they're picking? Because, like I said, the last time I reported was that the coach wanted a quarterback again. The new coach wanted a quarterback.
Yeah. Hector's asking whether the Giants are going to be picking a quarterback at number 4 in the draft, which is going to be in April. I don't know why they would even want to, because they already have Daniel Jones as their guy for the future. And it would make no sense whatsoever for the Giants to get a quarterback. I mean, they already have Jones as it is. Just give the kid a chance. I mean, he showed some flashes this past season, and I think it would be best if the Giants moved on with this young man as their guy.
But the coach always likes to bring his own people. And
that's why they have a general manager, and I would think that Dave Gettleman would probably overrule the guy and want to bring in a defensive guy, which is where the Giants should go. The Giants have to get a defensive player in the worst way.
Well, did they change general manager too, or did they keep the general manager?
No, they kept him. Dave Gettleman is back.
Okay, because the general manager sometimes likes to work with the coach, and they're normally on the same page. So it all depends how they decide on how to do things. Because if you let's say you bring a top quarterback, and let's say they play him out. Let's say they duke it out. You know what? Maybe it'd be better for Daniel Jones. Maybe he'll ride the horse a little better, because now his job's in jeopardy. Sometimes people are better under pressure and some people aren't.
See, this is where I totally disagree. Picking another quarterback would be something that's going to make Jones extremely furious. And let me tell you right now, he's not going to take this picking of another quarterback lying down. He's going to come out of there and try and prove himself a little bit. And in the event that things go from bad to worse, don't be surprised if you see Daniel Jones demand a trade.
Well, he's out. What, they signed him for? What, 3 years?
4 years.
Normally, a rookie contract is 3 years or 4 years, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Or is that in the NBA?
No, well, in the NBA, it's, I think, in the NBA, it is 4 years, and so is the NFL.
So, Daniel, like I said, who knows what they're going to do? Because you've been saying all along that they need defense and offense.
They need defense in the worst way. They were deplorable defensively last year. They need a number 1 stopper somewhere. They need a defensive lineman who can rush the quarterback. They need a young linebacker, especially one with some quickness. And they also need guys in the secondary in the worst way.
So, Jamie.
Yes?
So, now that you've explained that, speaking of abnormality, the Jets. explain the Jets to me again, because they still want to keep, the general manager wants to keep that the running back, and the coach, as I've been talking about before, and he don't want him. They're trying to trade him, and then the general manager said, we're not trading him, that they're going to use him now. If he carries the ball 800 or 900 times, and he's a 1,000-guy yarder, I think they should use him and build from there, because he's a working horse if he's in the right atmosphere.
All the more reason why the Jets have to make Le'Veon Bell a featured running back somehow, because with the receivers that they have, sorry, but I just don't see Robbie Anderson as a number one guy. I see him as maybe a number 3 at best, and that's why it would behoove the Jets to not even tag the guy, much less offer him a deal. As far as what the Jets should do, I would see them probably take somebody else as a wide receiver, a number 1 wide receiver. Get some help on that offensive line, please. And
so they need more offensive defense.
Oh, they need a lot more help offensively, because to be quite honest with you, their receiving core and their offensive line core, and I would even go far as to say that they should probably pick a tight end as well. They're just lacking sorely on playmakers on that side of the ball.
Well, I can say this much. I mean, with the rest of the league, I mean, will Dallas sign their quarterback?
They already tagged him, so that means that there's a strong possibility that they will.
Will Tom Brady go to San Francisco? And if he does go, would it hurt the Patriots?
I'll tell you right now, the Patriots will be a 500 team without him.
Then who would they have as quarterback? That's the thing. Then you'll find out if it's Bill Belichick's brains, or was it Tom Brady that saved his rear end.
Well, if he goes to San Francisco, which makes sense because he grew up not too far from San Francisco. He's from San Mateo, California, and he's a big 49er fan as a kid. Joe Montana was his idol growing up. If he does go to San Francisco, is he going to be the guy, or is Jimmy Garoppolo going to be the guy? Because let me tell you, a lot of people saw Tom Brady as the determining factor in Jimmy Garoppolo getting traded, because Brady saw Garoppolo as a real threat to his job security. So let's see exactly what happens if those two suit up in the same uniform once again. Who's going to be the starting quarterback this time?
But, I mean, that's the thing. You've got all these probabilities, and then once all them big names are out there, besides Tom Brady, and who are the other big ones that are out there in football?
The other big quarterbacks or the other big free agents?
Huh?
The other big quarterbacks or the other big free agents?
No, the other big names that are free agent right now. Who are they?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, because there have been quite a few big-name free agents who just signed some big contracts. And in fact, the Giants wound up getting some much-needed help in the secondary, because they wound up getting James Bradbury from the Panthers. 3 years and $45 million, which is a more than fair offer that they could have given to any free agent. And also Byron Jones signed with the Dolphins.
Right.
Jones, of course, used to play for the Cowboys.
Right.
And there were also three big trades that wound up taking place today in one of the first days of free agency. DeAndre Hopkins traded to the Cardinals for David Johnson. Johnson's going to be making his way over to the Texans now. Calais Campbell traded by the Jaguars to the Ravens. I think that's a big move for the Ravens, because Calais Campbell is a guy who could be a really good pass rusher in that Ravens scheme of theirs.
Will they make well with the teams right now before they go on into signing any college people? Right now, the trades that teams have done, who's come out ahead so far?
Of the teams that have made their deals,
Yes.
in my eyes, I think the Cardinals got the better end of the deal with the Texans, because now the Cardinals have a number one type receiver who Kyler Murray can get the ball to a good 10 times a game. And now he'll open up that receiving game immensely, which means that the 15-year veteran, Larry Fitzgerald, is going to be suddenly a wide-open man this time. And also, what about the deal that the Jaguars made with the Ravens, sending away Calais Campbell? Campbell was a more than proven player when he suited up for the Jaguars the last 4 years. Now he's going to be playing for a real contender, and the Ravens all of a sudden have become a team to watch for to get a Super Bowl berth next year. And also the Cowboys wound up tagging Dak Prescott, which means it's a 50-50 chance that he winds up getting a contract. You still there, Hector? Hector, you still there? Well, first off, we apologize for a lot of the static that was on the air. Unfortunately, we had a bit of a poor line collection.
Now that you've done all that, so the Cardinals coming in a hot spot.
Yeah.
Right?
After winning just 4 games last year, now, even though there's not going to be any pressure on them because they're a lesser team, the Cardinal fans are going to be expecting that Kyler Murray to DeAndre Hopkins duo to really fly just often in games next season.
But all in all, I mean, you see what's happening now. How will the team grow? How will the team grow now? Now that with the coronavirus and so forth, what are they going to do? Oh, wait a minute. I wanted to ask you something too.
Mm-hmm.
The Yankees shut down, baseball shut down, basketball shut down. Right?
Yeah.
But, I just thought of something. If Tom Brady goes to the 49ers, what do you do with Jimmy Garoppolo? Do you give up on him? Because how many years does Tom Brady have left in him?
Tom Brady said he wants to play until he's 45 years old, so that's a good 2 or 3 years that's left over. They cannot give up on a guy who they gave a huge contract to. That would be admitting that they made a mistake. By the same token, though,
right.
Jimmy Garoppolo also had a very, very debilitating knee injury the year before their Super Bowl berth. Don't you find it a little coincidental that since he played all 16 games last season, the 49ers were a quarter away from winning the Super Bowl? I don't think so. I think this guy is their future. I think that, if anything, Garoppolo is going to be the guy,
I don't know.
and Brady is going to be, in all likelihood, the backup going into the season.
For those people that don't know what time, and you give them a time, and what are the channel? What channels are there?
The
what
Bleachers,
channel are we on again?
In the Bleachers, we're on Spectrum's channel 1997.
1997 on Spectrum.
And it's on FiOS channel 37.
On FiOS channel 37. Okay. Because some people don't know that. And, my show is on Sundays, 11 o'clock, channel 34.
Right.
At 11 p.m. But I wanted to ask, because that's another thing. If he does go, who's the backup on the 49ers? And I know he wants to play until, 45, Brady?
He said he wants to play until he's 45 years old.
Well, let's see if he can play to 45. But let's say, supposing he doesn't. Then what do you do? Where do the 49ers? Because it happened to the Jets. Remember?
Yeah.
They brought in that
when they brought in Brett Favre.
Yeah, and he was great for his time.
Well,
And then all of a sudden,
he had a good first half. Second half, he really broke down.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, when he was on the other team, he was great. And then when he came to the Jets, he must have been gassed out or something. Because he didn't play all that well.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering if that's what's going to happen for Tom Brady, or is he just special? Or do you think Tom Brady's special enough to play until 45?
I think you've missed all of his championship performances, Hector. Obviously, he is still an extremely competitive and effective player. He could be on anybody's team. He could be on a Pop Warner team, for all I know, and still play to the capabilities that everybody knows him to.
You know, that's going to be a tough decision because, I mean, you can't age discriminate, but, you know, you got to figure how much in the tank does he have left.
At least 2 years. Let's put it that way. At least 2 years. I'll say this, though. If he does change teams, he's going to be another in the long line of superstar players that wind up going to the downside of their career on another team.
But should he stay faithful and become a Patriot?
He doesn't have to do anything that he doesn't want to do. And from what I understand, the Patriots are not Tom Brady's first choice.
No, because I was just wondering, because a lot of people are saying that, you know, we don't want you to go. You should stay a Patriot true and true. You know, and a lot of people, like they did with LeBron James, then they burned his shirt and so on.
Those were some overzealous and obsessive fans that really did not know any better. I doubt the Patriot fans would go that far, though, especially considering what he has done for that franchise all those years. By the way, speaking of Tom Brady, you can cross one team off the list of teams that Tom Brady was linked to. That's the Tennessee Titans, because the Titans already gave a brand new contract to the guy who was their quarterback this past season, which was, well, unfortunately the name escapes me, but he got himself a new deal. So you could forget about Brady going over to the Titans. From what I understand, either the Chargers or the 49ers or maybe even the Buccaneers might be three of the teams that are showing interest in Brady. One other team that the Buccaneers are linked to, or one other player that the Buccaneers are linked to, Phillip Rivers, because Phillip Rivers and his family moved to the Florida area. So there's a strong possibility you might be seeing Phillip Rivers in a Buccaneer uniform playing for the next 1 or 2 years maybe. He already turned 38 years of age. So there's a strong chance you'll be seeing a little bit more of Phillip Rivers in the next couple of years. And I'm thinking of Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill was the one who wound up signing that new deal with the Titans.
Right. Well, let me ask you, because, you know, the coronavirus has affected teams and even fans.
Yeah, they have.
You know, even fans themselves. And, you know, it's kind of funny to me because the person that you most hate is James Dolan, and he's getting hit hard.
I wish he was hit hard by a whole lot of punches.
I know that. I know you wish he was getting hit hard for real, but I'm just saying, in general, James Dolan, he's suffered big time. For so are other teams, but it's a sad state of affair where a lot of people, they may not be losing their jobs, but they're losing money big time.
Yeah.
Do you think the way they're handling the coronavirus, is that the proper way? Because now I'm hearing that they're going to do 30 days in NBA. They're going to suspend the games for 30 days, and they're going to come back because the Chinese league did the same thing.
You know, just because the Chinese league was able to resume after a month doesn't mean that the NBA should. Because from what I understand, it could be a long, long time before we get any games to resume in the remaining sports. Besides, there's still no cure that's been made for this virus.
And then I heard that, you know, if they do come back, people are going to be healthier, but they're going to be stiff because they haven't played so many games. I mean, practice is practice, but when you play against the real team, it's two totally different deals.
Yeah.
Think of it as the baseball strike when they had 2 seasons. Do you think they should do a 2-season thing, or they should continue on?
No, they should just continue on. Besides, they've already played 60 games as it is, 60 to 65 games. When you think about it, they're so close to the playoffs right now that they really should not waste their time having to start another 60-game season. I mean, it's gotten to the point where the players have already played a long enough season that it is. Just let them go back to the last quarter of the year.
Yeah, because I'll tell you something. It is affecting a lot of lives, and it is affecting... People are always talking about money. The Dow Jones is affecting that. If it was health, it would be different, but it's hitting our pockets. And people live check per check. People live check per check, and it's tough because those people that are in the arenas are counting on that check. But the Yankees right now, they stopped, and the Mets, Major League Baseball stopped playing baseball.
Yeah. And from what I understand, they're going to push the season back to maybe the middle of April.
Yeah, and they're even saying that there's no even scouting. You can't even scout anymore.
Yeah.
So it's gonna. I don't know how it's gonna. Hell, he may even affect WrestleMania and some of these other wrestling big companies that are out there.
Speaking of WrestleMania, I just got a text message from my friend Lynn, and they have hello to Lynn, of course. WWE just put out a statement saying that WrestleMania 36 will go on as advertised, but instead of them playing it at a gargantuan stadium in Tampa, they're going to have it at the training facility in Orlando. They're going to have it at their training facility in Orlando. So instead of Raymond James Stadium in Tampa, they're going to have it at their training facility in Orlando, starting at 7:00, which means they're going to be having this in front of an empty building, or inside an empty building.
Well, what do you think of that so far? The empty building fights.
I think it's going to be bizarre, to be honest with you. I mean, it's going to be like seeing these guys practicing their routine for the actual show.
Well, somebody broke kayfabe. Sasha Banks, Bailey, Bliss, and I forgot the other girl's name. They stopped wrestling in the commercial. When the commercial came back, they started wrestling again.
Uh-huh.
That's something that leaked out. Instead of them continuing to wrestling, because, international people are seeing this, so they get different spots.
Mm-hmm.
They stopped. But I'm trying to figure out how people are going to scout now with this, because everything stopped. And sports shows, what are they going to talk about? Unless they're going to try and be like a worldwide of sports and then try to find, cricket or that article I sent you about the wrestling. Greco-Roman, I thought they got rid of that wrestling, I thought they got rid of that for the Olympics.
I was under the impression that they got rid of it also, but are they going to have it back for Japan this summer?
I could have sworn they got rid of They got rid of wrestling and for the Olympics. I'm surprised, I'm still wondering about that, because last 3 years ago they didn't have wrestling, and Kurt Angle was trying to fight it.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's going to be speculation of I hope the NBA crushes James Dolan. They because of the stupid things that he's done, and if enough people take them to court, if the NBA continues to get a black eye because of him, that's when the NBA will step in.
The question is, what is it going to take for this idiot to be ousted and allow for some more competent, more caring ownership for that once proud franchise?
I don't know if they'll ever make him sell the team, but like they did with the Giants, put someone in there that's competent and go, hey, buddy, we're the New York Knicks.
I look at the other teams in this city. The Yankees have had the Steinbrenners for the last almost 50 years, because Mr. Steinbrenner bought the franchise in January '73, and they have had 5 championships in that time. The Giants have had the Mara family, and for the last almost 30 years, the Tisch family. The Giants have produced 4 Super Bowl titles. Maybe it should take a family of owners to try and do something with that franchise. And while they're at it, take control of the Rangers, too.
You're right. What do these owners have to do before they, any management steps in and goes, you're doing something wrong. We gotta help. What did the Giants do that got George Young in there?
They missed the playoffs for 18 consecutive years. 18 years in a row. And that's not even a record. The record, by the way, is 25 years in a row set by the Steelers. And this was before their steel curtain regime.
So because they lost so much, that's when they decided to come back and go, we got to help you guys because you guys are from New York?
Exactly right.
and you make us money.
Mm-hmm. They're a flagship franchise of the NFL.
If they're still making money, like I said, I think the only way to get the NBA Adam Silver to step in is for people to start suing James Dolan, and if they win, that's a black eye to the NBA because he's ruining their money. And it's all about the money. It's not about competition anymore. Everything is about money.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I think we'd be remiss if we did not continue our football talk. You know that the NFL and the Players Union got a brand new contract, right?
No, I didn't know that.
Yep.
When did that happen? And what is it made of?
Well, the contract happened yesterday, and it's going to be a 10-year deal worth $198 million in salary cap, which means the owners and the union have a deal until 2030, which means the owners got their promise of a 17-game season. Starting next year, they're going to play 17 games, and they're going to add an extra playoff team, which means 7 teams in the AFC, 7 teams in the NFC. The big issue, though, was money. The owners are going to give the union a huge chunk of money for the duration of this deal.
Now, is it going to be the TV revenue? Is it going to go by TV revenue? Is it going to go by? Is it going to go by players? How they sell the shirts and so on?
Revenue does have a lot to do with it, although they still haven't come up with a new contract with any of the TV networks yet. So that's something that's still binding.
Because I tell you that that I hope they do something well. So it's going to be. It used to be 16 games. Now it's 17, right?
Yep, 17-game season now.
And what do you think of the 17-game season?
I'm not thrilled with it, and let me tell you, the players for the longest time, they did not want to play 17 games. But as soon as they saw all of that money rolling into them, they decided to bend just a little bit in order to make this deal go. What's that?
If I remember correctly, they wanted 18.
They did want 18. The owners wanted an 18-game season, quite a bit.
And they wanted to cut out the playoffs.
Yep. And they wanted to add to the playoffs. So now it's going to be 7 teams in each conference instead of 6, which means now the number 2 seed, which used to have a bye, now has to play a first-round game.
What do you think of that?
I don't really have a problem with it because when you think about it, there have been some really deserving teams in the past that really should have been in the playoffs, and they were not. So let's see exactly what happens here. Now it's just going to be each number 1 seed that's going to have a bye. So that race to the number 1 seed is going to have a lot of implications now, which makes every single game extremely important for these teams, especially those that have a higher amount of victories.
Yeah, no. That's going to be something, though.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be something because, let me ask you, that's what you like about the contract, or that's what you dislike about the contract? What are the pros and cons that you find?
Well, the one thing that I don't like about this deal is the fact that they have to play a 17-game season. The only shining light on that is that the players are now going to play 3 preseason games instead of 4. Either way, they were going to have a 20-game season regardless. It's 3 preseason games and 17 regular season games now, as opposed to the 4 and 16 of 40 years past. So, the other thing that I liked about this deal, though, is the fact that these players are going to be getting a whole chunk of money coming their way.
I mean, they are risking their lives, if you think about it.
Yeah, they are. That's why they didn't want to do a 17-game season.
But I'm wondering, did they put in the contract taking care of the former
Yes.
or elderly players?
That's a great point you raised. They did put in a clause in the deal where current players and retired players are going to get medical benefits.
Well, that's good. I mean, because, I think they all, with TV revenue and so on, even though they lost money, and it's not because of Kaepernick's nonsense, it's not because of what Kaepernick did. I was going to call it nonsense, but that's not nonsense. But forgetting that part for a moment, which nobody talks about anymore because they're trying to kill that, and that is, here's a man, that good football player, still not being picked up, and they're saying because of health issues. I mean, damn, he'll be a damn good backup quarterback. That's one. But I'm glad they're protecting the older players.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm at. Now, what is the con? What don't you like about it?
The 17-game season. The players are so used to playing 16 games in a regular season that they were pretty comfortable with it. I know
Is there that much of a difference, though? One more game?
I think it is. The only issue is over how long is these 17 games going to be spread out? Are they going to be spread out over 17 weeks, or are they going to be spread out over 18 weeks with a bye in there?
And also, are they going to fight more with their divisional rivals, or are they going to go out and play other?
Well, they're going to continue to play the same amount of division games that they have before, 2 games against each division rival. And of course, there's the conference, within the conference. Now they're going to play, I think it's 14 games against one division, 4 games against one division and 3 games against another division. And of course, the interconference matchups against other conference teams, 4 games in that area as well.
So the pros weigh out the cons, or do the cons weigh out the pros?
All in all, I think the pros outweigh the cons, because not only do the players get a lot of money in this deal, they're also going to be adding a seventh playoff team within their conference, which means a team that was deserving of it but did not get in back in the day. This time they're going to be able to make it.
Oh, I saw it. Are they going to? So they're going to. I just like the fact that they're going to protect the players, the older players. That's one good thing, because I think they're making enough money. And even like we've talked about before, with college players, the university's making a buttload of money because these players, they say, well, they're getting their education, which costs just as much. But if the guy busts his ankle and so on, why do you think people leave early? Because they want to make the money. It's all about the almighty dollar.
Yeah, they want...
No more passion much.
They want what is in that pot that's there for every player, and that is that ton of money that's waiting for every single one of them.
And you can't blame them. You can't blame them if they want to. You know, what is it now? It was at 19 years old. Now they're trying to get it back to 18.
Yeah. Graduate from high school and then apply for the NBA.
Well, what is the difference between 1 year younger and 1 year older?
Not much, to be honest with you. You see, a lot of these guys play their freshman year of college, and then once they declare and get drafted, they basically have the exact same game, the exact same strength, the exact same weaknesses, and the players try to prosper from that.
I mean, hell, I don't think they even play defense anymore, the way things are going.
There are certain teams that do not necessarily have the greatest defensive players on their roster. But let me tell you, there are guys on there who do have very polished, solid defensive skills. I'll put it to you that way.
But haven't you noticed that when some players go and they go to, they're supposed to be defensive specialists, and when they go to the playoff, I mean, when they go to a team, they become offensively and they forget how to play defense?
Yeah, that's not necessarily their game right there, having to be put into that situation. Sometimes it does become the coach's fault because they don't realize what a particular player's shortcomings are. So they practically, instead of trying to build on their strengths, they try to continue to use that guy in spite of their weaknesses.
But that's going to be something because when, like I said, I mean, you've seen it. They're supposed to be these great defensive specialists, and when they go to the NBA, you don't see it. I mean, Mitchell Robinson's doing a nice job. And the Knicks won their final game. Big ups to the Knicks that won their final game.
Oh, that's water under the bridge right now, man. There's a lot bigger fish to fry, and that's
in the draft, though.
Whether trying to find a cure for this illness or not.
Huh?
There's bigger fish to fry. More importantly, right now, is trying to find a cure for this illness.
Well, right now, like I said, it's all about the almighty dollar because that's all you're hearing about.
Yeah, well, let's hope they can use that almighty dollar to put it forth towards some research to try and find a cure.
You know, I tell you, with some of the people that are out there, whether it's Congress, whether it's our senators and so on, some of these people that we're dealing with, they're looking out for themselves. They're covering their ass. And when they just want to cover their rear ends, they want to keep their jobs because they love the power.
Yeah, we hear that a lot.
And that's sad, too, because then once they give up their, let's say people give up the Senate, they become lobbyists.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where they make more money because now they're more influential. But how does sports and politics mix up? Because look what's happening. If everything stops, there's no money coming in. We have a bigger debt. So sports makes us happy. And there's a lot of people that are really suffering out there because their teams, whether they win or lose, they suffer.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder how are they getting their taste. Is the XFL still on?
No, XFL postponed their season.
Oh, wow. And that's going to hurt him because it just started.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
All the major leagues wound up postponing their seasons. Even golf and NASCAR wound up postponing their seasons.
NASCAR too.
NASCAR too.
Like I said, the only one that didn't postpone their season has been the wrestling,
Yeah.
the college wrestling, and I'm sure there's other ones involved. I'm sure there's other ones.
Mm-hmm.
I just haven't seen it.
We
But I'm
mentioned
sure
bef-
they are.
Yeah. We mentioned before that WrestleMania is going to continue in Orlando at the Performance Center instead of Raymond James Stadium in Tampa. Well, the NWA, they've decided to postpone the Crockett Cup, which is supposed to take place next month. And they're also postponing all of their tapings of their internet show, Power, which takes place every Tuesday night at 7.
I used to watch all that. You know, MLW is a nice company.
Yes, they are.
I mean, the reason why you don't see New Japan Pro Wrestling, and this is something that I heard, that I've been hearing too, is that the same people that the Impact, they're in the same channel. They're an Axe channel.
Mm-hmm.
Impact is an Axe channel, and New Japan was in Axe channel too. And then they were saying that Impact wanted to work. The owners wanted New Japan to go work with Impact Wrestling, but they didn't want to. New Japan Wrestling didn't want to work with Impact Wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why you don't see New Japan Pro Wrestling anymore on Axe TV. And I used to love their shows, their storylines and so forth. They're great. But, you know, even in Japan, they stopped their wrestling shows. At some point, what do you think is going to happen towards the end? And how long do you think this is going to go on for?
I hate to say this, but this looks like it may last for a long time. I don't think that this isn't going to be like a 1-month thing. If they don't find a cure anytime soon, this could drag for 6 months, from what someone once said in a recent news conference.
Because I was thinking, do you think it'll drag on for years or months?
I pray to God that it's not for years. If not, then we've got a crisis on our hands.
You know, that's tough. That is going to be tough because there it is. There's the French right there.
You still there, Hector?
So that's the thing. How long? Oh, they only have to.
I think Hector might be a little bit distracted.
But you know,
there we go.
if it takes years, it's going to hurt the economy and people really badly.
Yeah.
And you know, there's only so much sports you're going to be able to talk about because now it's going to be what if.
Yeah.
But you know, you can't give up. That's one thing. You can't give up. You gotta stay strong and continue to fight the good fight when it comes to talking about sports because they all have their opinion.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they all have their opinions.
Yeah. And as it turns out, because of this virus, we have no NCAA. Because of this virus, we have no NCAA tournament. That's been canceled. The season finishes with Kansas as the unofficial #1 ranked team in the country. You already heard about basketball and hockey. They postponed their seasons. Baseball postponed their season.
Right.
Both preseason and the start of the regular season. At least we have the NFL to try and take us through. Oh, that reminds us. The NFL is going to have their draft but it will not be attended by any fans, which means in all likelihood the NFL is going to have their draft at their offices on Park Avenue.
Hey, you know what? They got to do something. They can't just stop progress.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going by, yeah, you know what? They're going to do what they got to do.
Yeah.
They're going to do what they got to do, but, you know, nobody knows what they're doing right now.
No.
Nobody knows because, well, it's less than 500. Oh, less than 10. You know, at some point, whether we have the resources or not, and some other countries are doing better than us,
Mm-hmm.
and hopping on this, and because of tax cuts that we had on the EPA and all them other people, the center of disease, because we needed to get a tax break, that's what happens. But, you know, once you're one-minded, nobody's going to change your mind about nothing because you think the way you think. You know, just like people, you know, if you're a Republican, you stay Republican. If you're a Democrat, you stay a Democrat. And most people are that way. They won't. You could be the worst president in the world or the worst senator in the world. They will not change.
Yeah.
They won't change. But it's hurting the economy. It's hurting people, jobs, and it's hurting, you know, the fans.
Yeah. That's...
But now, all in all, people are still getting paid, though.
This
Right?
is true. This is true. The NBA is still paying their players.
So at some point, do you think that they'll stop paying?
Well, I know that the league is definitely going to continue to pay their players. That's a given. As far as what's happening in the other leagues, I'm not really sure. I know the NFL is in their off season, so I doubt that anybody's getting paid there. But I would think that the NBA is going to continue to pay their players, and I would assume that the other two leagues, Major League Baseball and the NHL, would probably still pay their players. That's just a guess.
Yeah, but if they do play their players, how long will they pay their players for? Because at some point, they got to say, wait a minute, you're getting paid for free. You're not doing anything to
End of the season, maybe?
You know, what was that?
End of the regular season?
Yeah, at the end of the season, you think they'll stop paying them? At some point, do you think they'll stop paying them?
They do that they've done that for every other regular season for years.
Man, there's a lot of people mad. There's going to be a lot of mad people.
Yeah.
And you got some of these people that don't know how to save money.
Oh, boy. That's probably because they've got an agent or a financial planner that's giving them some of the worst advice.
Well, it's not only that, but they want to, they want to, let's say, please the boys, they want to, please their parents. They want to do things they've never done before. Look at Mike Tyson. I mean, even though he was with Don King at the time,
Mm-hmm.
but think of it. Look what he did. He brought a tiger.
Yeah.
All these people that wasted money. Well, not waste because if that's what they like, that's what they liked. As long as they take care of it. But there's a lot of people that have gone bankrupt because they blew their money. So I'm wondering, because now they're teaching this as well. They're teaching them how to save money. They're teaching these guys how to save money. So what do you think? Because I know the Giants, when the Giants and somebody new comes into the league, they'll they sit them up and they'll show them how to do interviews and they'll show them how to save money and all that.
See, that's the thing.
I think that should be done.
The NFL has this thing with all of the rookies in which they teach them how to do money management. I'm surprised that these money management classes have not necessarily applied to the players in the outside world. I mean, these things are supposed to be of real help to them, but for some reason they're not. Well, unfortunately, we've approached a minute. Hector, do you
Yeah.
quickly have any last words?
Yeah, I just want to say that, Jamie, I want to thank you for helping me on the show.
Of course.
And I want to thank some of the people there that are on the show, too. And that my show is on Sundays, 11 p.m., Channel 34. And if you want to contact me on Home Invaders at Yahoo. That's my email address, so
Okay.
contact me there if you want to be on my show, too.
All right.
And we'll have a good time. And
All right.
don't forget to see this show, too, which is on Channel 37 at 7 p.m.
Thank you again.
on Mondays.
And let me say thanks to Kenny Graham, who was on the other side of the glass. And thanks to you guys for watching at home. So for everyone here, I'm Jamie.
I'm Hector. Well
We will
done.
see you next Monday night, God willing.
Yes.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.